an educator will always want to be in the classroom. Unfortunately, our state is pushing passionate, caring, um, amazing people out. My name is Ovidia Molina. I am a middle school teacher by trade, currently the president of the Texas State Teachers Association.
Where do you teach or did you teach?
I taught in Alief ISD outside of Houston.
Middle school is not an easy age. So how did you find your passion in teaching middle school?
Oh, I think I always had the passion. There was O'Donnell Middle School is where I taught, and I just always wanted to be at that campus. It's a seventh and eighth grade campus, and it was just something that I've always wanted to do, and my dream was realized. And so I did that for a little bit over 10 years.
And what did you teach?
I taught U.S. history for a couple of years, and then I moved to ESL. I did language arts, literature, and U.S. history. I'm an immigrant from El Salvador, so that it was my true calling, being with the kids that, you know, uh, were like me, and hopefully I was a role model for them to, the opportunities and the many things that this country has to offer, and what they have to offer their communities as well. So.
I would imagine that has to influence your background. Emigrating to the U.S. has to influence your feelings about the public education system in Texas. Am I right?
Oh, definitely. I um I can think back in my time as a student, learning how to speak the language, and learning what the United States is and was at the time I was growing up. It's a scary time, but it's also very exciting at the same time. It's just, you are told and filled with hopes. Your family comes over to for a better life, and so that's what I wanted to make sure that my students felt every single day, and that they knew that somebody was here to support them because, as an immigrant myself, I sometimes maybe didn't feel it, not necessarily from the adults, though sometimes, but mostly from, knowing that I wasn't from here, but wanting to belong. And so, feelings of making sure that my children knew that they were loved and welcomed, and that we were all the same in my classroom was very important.
Um, Tell me how you feel about maybe the state of public education in Texas now versus when you were one of those students.
Now we celebrate just who our students are a little bit more. And I'm very proud of that. I am proud that our students know that they are welcomed, know that there are people outside of their family and community that care about them, that there are people working in this state to ensure that they have a bright future, and that they are also included in the process. I don't think when I was growing up, I felt as included in my educational career as many of our students are now. And being able to bring in different groups to speak to our students and to sort of connect them to the community more than I feel I was.
So let's talk about from a policy standpoint. What, in your opinion, are some of the biggest issues? I have a feeling I know one of them, but the biggest issues as we are on the eve of a new legislative session from an educational policy standpoint.
Well, as an educator and being honored to able to speak up for educators around the state, I can tell you that teacher and educator pay is one of the biggest things that we are seeing. People that can't stay in education because they can't survive with the rise of inflation and the many different things that are coming their way, as well as the lack of respect for the profession, the attacks on their professionalism, and the The fact that we constantly have to fight the state and remind them that public schools and public education in Texas are supposed to be fully funded, and we're not doing that job, right? So ensuring that our students are also getting all of the resources, and that's a pretty broad topic when you say all of the resources, and you can't say these are the resources that are needed in Texas. You have to go through every community and talk about what that community needs, what those students need to ensure that they're successful. And so we have lost the ability to have our voices as educators be respected at the state level to ensure that policies that are being passed into laws are actually things that are going to impact our students in the right way. And so, one of the biggest things that we would like to see is to have the state truly fund our public schools, not have gotcha kind of policies that are going to hurt our schools, because when our schools are not funded, our students don't have the resources, it's not just a topic or a theme to us, it's our kids that are being hurt. And so it's something that is fueling many of the people that are still in education to try to make right. But it is also something that it's just becoming so overwhelming that people can't stay and fight anymore because they fought for so long. So funding education, ensuring that our students are getting the resources, educator respect, building for our communities. There are many policies that can happen, both for our schools directly, but also for our communities that help every one of our students in public education.
When you hear people talk about educational savings accounts or school vouchers, what as a teacher is your reaction to those proposals?
So everything that I said before was we want to see policies that put into our public schools, not take away. And when I hear the terms that are being used for vouchers, and trying not to say the word voucher, it's a lie. It's a false promise. We know, we've seen in other places around the country, when vouchers come into the system, they always take away from our public schools. Uh, it starts out slowly, but it only grows. And so we've also seen in places like Arizona where the vouchers, the savings accounts, are not really helping our poor families. They are helping people that are already in private schools help pay the money that they can already afford. We don't talk to our families and let them know that this voucher that takes away from our public schools, where over 5 million of our kids go in Texas, this voucher isn't going to cover everything. And there are other things that our families have to do to ensure that their kids are able to go to a private school, or there are other requirements that you have to pay for. And this is not something that is spoken about. And so when I hear the word savings account, it's a savings account for the rich. It's not anything for our families that truly need it. What our families truly need are our public schools to be fully funded so that our children get everything that they deserve and need.
Are you concerned? I mean, the governor clearly launched a really strong campaign against some of the people who were against vouchers. He says that he has the votes now. Are you concerned as the legislative session begins that it's inevitable to see some sort of school voucher plan pass in Texas?
I don't want to say that it's inevitable, but I know that the governor has thrown a lot of money to continue to attack our public schools. And that should make people sick to their stomachs. That should make them so angry that they want to make sure that it never happens. We had, our governor attack members of his own party and take them out because they didn't vote on vouchers. The reason they didn't vote on vouchers is because it was going to hurt their communities. So they were standing up for their communities. We want to, and we will ask all of our representatives to ensure that they are continuing to speak out for their communities and are not going to be bullied by the governor to pass vouchers that we know are going to hurt our public schools and in our communities and our students. As I said before, as an educator, we want to do everything to protect our kids. And so we will continue to fight and continue to ask people to vote against the vouchers. Our rural Republicans, that a lot of them were taken out by the governor, were standing up for their communities. They were standing up for our public schools because they know that we are the hub of a community. In many places, we are the biggest job provider. We are the people that know our students, from before they come to school to after they graduate. We are integral to building that community and building up these future, voters and doctors and lawyers and teachers, hopefully. And right now, the way we are treating our educators, we are seeing less and less people wanting to become educators because they don't want to have to put up a fight. Our job is very demanding. It's very rewarding, but the attacks on public schools make it to where a lot of people don't even want to think about coming into education, and that's sad.
I guess a bit of a personal question here because, and I have to admit, my sister taught public school for 28, 29 years, hit that magic number, and she decided to retire. So I know the stories that she shared with me. But do you think you'll go back to the classroom after you leave TSTA? Do you think things have changed so much and it's just so difficult now that you find more joy out of advocating for teachers as a whole? I guess I'm wondering, did you reach a point of burnout and decide you needed to take a step away, or do you look forward to going back to it?
So that is a really good question, because I will tell you that I did not reach a burnout, but this was, different times pre-COVID, and the continued attacks and the last session where our governor held hostage funding and literally did not fund us because he did not get vouchers. That's how, as educators, we feel. And it's just a feeling of, why are we so hated by our state? And as I said before, the representatives that voted for public education that were taken out, we commend them, and we hope that the new ones are going to be as strong to ensure that our public schools do get funding this time, and public education is not held hostage one more session. I when I left my classroom to become TSTA Vice President at the time, my children gave me a going away party. I had beginner ESL students, and we cried. We cried because I was leaving, and that is still in my heart. My dream is to go back into education, but every time I tell somebody, my fellow educators, they wanted to they don't want me to go back because it's too hard. And that is truly painful, because education is a gateway. Education is how I connected to children that were like me, and wanting to make sure that they had a bright future. And so, it's just bittersweet to be asked that question, because I know where my heart is. I know that I love to advocate for our, educators and students around, and so I will do both. But an educator will always want to be in the classroom. Unfortunately, our state is pushing passionate, caring, amazing people out by the way they're being treated.
It's heartbreaking to hear, but I know what you just said will resonate with a lot of people out there, no doubt. From a policy perspective, tell me, what the next couple of weeks look like. We're right at, the next legislative session is just around the corner. So how do you build up from as the session is about to begin? Is there anything specific that you look to and you're like, I've got to target this person, this bill, things like that? Is it too early to know? I guess I'm just curious to see what the coming, days and then weeks and then months look like for you.
So we've had campaigns pro public education. We've had campaigns to say voting education first, right? We want to make sure that we continue that kind of campaign as we go into session. We tell all of our educators and the people that love them to make sure to stay vocal, to stay active, to be on alert when education issues are being talked about in our capital, because we will call on them. We have passionate educators at all different levels, from bus drivers to, professors at universities, aspiring educators. We do have a few that are wanting to come. We have all these different people that are willing to stop what they're doing to come up and speak to our representatives and tell them their story, to try to sway them and ensure that they're doing right by our students and pro public education and funding our schools and all that. So we will continue to share our stories. We will continue to ask other people to help us speak out. We support anybody who is pro public education. And so we will reach out to our Republican representatives, to our Democratic representatives, and ask them to come together to ensure that we are, building the future of Texas by funding public education and ensuring that we open the door to the endless possibilities for our students. And so we will be active, we'll be vocal, we will be calling, we will be emailing, we'll be visiting, both here at the Capitol, and then our members and our leaders back home, they will go visit the representatives. So we will stay visible, and we will not let people forget that election day is one thing, but what happens after the election is another, and that's when they're up here at the Capitol, and we need to make sure that they're still listening and hearing from us then.
Final thing before I let you go, do you feel like you're going into this session with optimism, or do you feel more hesitant and concerned about what lies ahead?
There's always a concern when we know that there's an attack, and we know that there's an attack. We know that vouchers are a priority for the governor, and vouchers are an attack on public schools. And so there is that hesitation from that knowledge. But as a middle school teacher that has to make sure that her students believe that she believes that their future is bright, there's optimism. We will do what we have to do and ensure that our students feel that hope and know that there are people that are speaking out for them to ensure that they get the best education possible.
Ovidia, thank you so very much. This was a great conversation. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to speak about?
I no, I thank you for the conversation, and I would urge people to, go to their school board meetings and reach out to their children's teachers, or visit the campus and ask them, what's really going on, because a lot of the stories that they hear outside may not be real, and so truly find out what's going on in our public schools. We welcome volunteers, and we want people to be more in support than against us. And so we are just hoping that people find out the amazing things that are happening in our schools, the amazing kids that we have, the talented and dedicated educators. We don't just give our time, we don't just teach, we are part of the community. And so this is something that is very important for us.